Welcome to Titan, the fighting fantasy world. The year is 1986 and Titan hit the fighting fantasy world. Not a game book, but a book detailing the fictional world of Titan, where most of the fighting fantasy game books reside in. This book is a map and a reference. The book encompasses the three main continents of Titan: Allansia, the Old World and Khul. The book also goes on to describe various fighting fantasy characters and their biographies. Titan itself is located in a dimension called the Earthly Plane and orbits a yellow star. One satellite orbits this planet. Although the writing was credited to Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone, it was actually written by Mark Gascoigne. The fantastic cover art of this book depicts a large dragon attacking wizards and soldiers on a large drawbridge and entrance to a large castle. The external cover art in this book is credited to Christos Achilleos, a well-known fighting fantasy artist, with many a Gamebook artwork credited to his name. The back of the book it describes the ultimate fighting fantasy handbook. You met the monsters right of the pit, now meet the rest of the fighting fantasy world. This book is a reference, a map, an encyclopedia, a part 2, if you like, to Out of the Pit. So this is Titan, and the very first inside cover you've a lovely piece of artwork there, and moving through the book itself it says Titan, the fighting fantasy world, Steve Jackson and Livingstone, edited by Mark Gascoigne. And the next page it says, for Tony who deserves it and Chetna who doesn't. Moving down here with publication details of the year it was published, 1986. Cover illustrations by Christos Achilleos, and it gives a list of other artists involved in this, which was John Blanche, Paul Bonner, Leo Hartas, Bob Harvey, Bill Houston, Alan Langford, Steve Luxon, Ian McCaig, Russ Nicholson, Will Rees, John Sibbick and Gary Ward, etc. So a lot of the artwork that's contained in this book is also taken out the Fighting Fantasy books as well. It's included in this. This is a list of contents here, and it's signed down here after the foreword by Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone. Now this book I believe is 21 centimetres times 30, which is quite a sizable one, and this was the same format as the original Out of the Pit. Latterly, I think in 1989 this was scaled down as well, and the same as Out of the Pit was a kind of smaller version but didn't contain as much artwork, I believe. So this book is packed full of information. You can read through. It gives you a great background into fighting fantasy and the world that it resides in. The Bone Rat Caves, the Orc Settlement, look at that there, very detailed, etc. And check this out here, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, it says Stittle Wood, the elven village of Erin Dordaneth. And there's a map there, and there's a fantastic image of one of the elves as well. Amazing. Just myself flicking through these pages just now, I'm going to mention something. You can actually smell the 1980s coming off these pages. The ages of the pages, if that makes any sense. It's just like it's preserved in these books. It's just that these new books don't have this aurora or kind of scent off them. Not into that kind of thing, but if you've got these books at home and they're sitting there and you open them up, you know what I'm talking about. You just, the 1980s just leap out at you. It's fantastic. I mean, a very interesting page here is the skies of Titan, what they see in the night sky, etc. In the beginning, history and legend. It's a background, a detailed information regarding the past of Titan itself. It's an excellent book. Excellent. The book itself is far too much to cover. This is Allansia, the biggest continent in Titan. The books that live here in such a term are the Warlock of Firetop Mountain, the Citadel of Chaos, the Forest of Doom, Mage Hunter. There's far too many to mention. The continent of the Old World. The books that live here are Vault of the Vampire, Legend of the Shadow Warriors, Knights of Doom, and Howl of the Werewolf. And of course, the awesome Sorcery series. This is Khul, the Dark Continent, with various game books set in this area, like Seas of Blood, Scorpion Swamp, Beneath Nightmare Castle, and Phantoms of Fear, to name but a few. This book's a visual guide and reference, placing you in the world in which you adventure through. The artwork in this book is fantastic, from colour art to black and white. This one on the left is from the Sorcery series, Care, City Port of Traps. And here you have a fantastic detailed map of Fangthane, the dwarven capital, located on the east coast of Allansia. This book contains all sorts of creatures, characters and races, from elves, dwarves, lizard people, snake people, witches, warlocks, and countless more. Ultimately, it's a guidebook to the fighting fantasy universe. If you're a fan of fighting fantasy, this guide will sit well in your collection. And as always, the ending says, farewell, brave adventurer.